haven't seen me around campus, but today we are honored to have State Auditor Rob Sand. Rob is in his the Iowa's 33rd state auditor. He was elected in 2018 after serving 7 years in the Iowa Attorney General's office as the Chief Public Corruption Prosecutor. So maybe some of you have met him. Kidding, joke. He prosecuted the largest lottery rigging scheme in American history, and as well as the Iowa Firm Office tax credit scandal. In 2019, Sand created the Public Innovations and Efficiencies Program. The PI program encourages counties, cities, and school districts to create and implement cost-cutting measures that save taxpayers money. The PI program has the potential of unlocking millions of dollars in savings for the governmental entities and has been so successful, the Mississippi State Auditor is replicating the PI program in his state. And I'll just add a little commentary there that although he is a Democrat, that was replicated was a Republican. So it's been nice to see people work across the aisles. Auditor Sand was born and raised in Decorah, Iowa. He attended Brown University and was named a Harry S. Truman Scholar. After college, Auditor Sand attended the University of Iowa School of Law. He was the first student to be both president of the Iowa Student Bar Association and an editor-in-chief of the Law Journal. He is also the recipient of the Hankler-Finkbein Medallion, the university's highest degree. We are honored to welcome Auditor Sand to Iowa Central Community College today to discuss the new hiring initiative being launched by the Auditor's Office, one that will help stem the nationwide shortage of accountants and provide new opportunities for Iowa Central Community College accounting students and future graduates. So let's give a big Iowa Central welcome to State Auditor Rob Sand.
Thanks for the intro. Thank you guys for having me. I'm glad you joined us because this fundamentally most affects all of you as future students, or future accountants, I should say, and current students. So we have been talking about this and trying to talk to as many accounting students as possible. 12 of Iowa's 15 community colleges have an accounting program. And so we have been traveling around to talk to folks and talk to students about the fact that you are now all welcome to apply at the State Auditor's Office. The office used to not allow people with a 2-year degree to apply. We're supposed to be the taxpayer's watchdog. We focus on efficiency, we focus on saving money. Explain to me how letting people who make efficient and inexpensive decisions about where to get their education shouldn't apply to our office. Right? If we're going to promote efficiency, then people who take a 2-year degree over a 4-year might be making a good choice. If we're going to promote saving money, then people who get a less expensive degree over a more expensive one might be a good choice to work in our office. So this is something that I think just makes a ton of sense for the work that we do. I grew up in Decorah. I had classmates of mine that went through who got straight A's, who decided to go get a 2-year degree. Smart kids who just said, I don't know why I would spend money on a 4-year degree, who wanted to get out and start doing the work that they plan to do as opposed to sit in a classroom. And I know that describes some of you too, which is part of what excites me about the program. I think we're going to get a lot of good applicants from across all of Iowa's community colleges that are going to add to the workforce that we have in the State Auditor's Office. The other thing that I want to add about this that I think is important is it's partially responsive to a nationwide shortage in accountants and auditors. Nationwide, we've seen a 17% decrease in the number of people in the profession just in the last 3 years. So that's a pretty substantial decrease. What that means is that we have people working in our office who've got a little bit higher stack in front of them than they normally do in terms of the amount of work that they need to do. And it's not just our office, that's true for private CPA firms, it's true for accounting firms, it's true across the board. So you all are going to have plenty of opportunities in front of you. I think what you find is that if you can get it, a starting position in our office is towards the top end of the pay range for when you graduate. We're going to start folks at about $60,000 a year. And so if you're coming in and you're making that wage, that's a pretty good competitive wage for you. I want to add 2 other things too. So bottom line that I want everybody to remember, and then I want you to tell your other fellow accounting students is, hey, we can go to work in the auditor's office. Two other things that I do think are important. Number one, we have a new rule in our office that no matter where you want to live in Iowa, as long as you have at least a little bit of experience, so we know you know what you're doing, if that makes sense, you can live there. We call this rule statewide work, statewide jobs. Our office already audits most, one entity in most of Iowa's counties. So it might be, if we're looking at Lyon County, it could be Lyon County. Maybe we audit the county seat, Rock Rapids. Maybe we audit the school district. But usually we go to every county every year to do something there. So it makes sense that we would let our staff live all over the state, right? We used to require that people live in Des Moines, Iowa City, or Ames, because that's where we had offices. And it just doesn't make sense. If we're going to travel all over the state, I think it makes sense for us to let our staff live everywhere. So if you're in North Central Iowa and you want to stay in North Central Iowa, you can do that. We might want to, if you're coming straight out of the degree program, probably want 1 year with you in the office, just so we can get to know you, we can see how your work is, we can answer your questions a little bit more easily. But once you have that year of experience, as long as we're satisfied with the quality of work you're doing, you say, hey, I want to move back to Fort Dodge, we say, thumbs up, great. And then what we do is try to assign you to work in the Fort Dodge area so that your commutes are as short as possible when you're coming and going from a client's offices. The other thing I think worth mentioning too is we used to push people into advancement, meaning if you came into our office, we expected that at a certain point you would take a promotion and that you would take on supervisory obligations. We don't do that anymore either. And so if you're someone who maybe you have obligations outside of your job that are pretty substantial, maybe you've got kids at home, maybe you're caring for older relatives, if you are just sort of happy at a relatively entry-level position, we will let you stay there now, whereas we didn't used to. As long as I have all of you here, I mean, that's the bones of the announcement in terms of what's going on in our office and why I'm really excited to be welcoming folks with an associate's degree to the office. But what questions do any of you have about the office or the work that we do?
What exactly do you do for your job?
What do I do personally? I review every report that we issue. So everything that comes out of the office, I'm kind of like the last set of eyes that looks at it. I work a little bit more closely with the people in our investigative division. I should go back and give you a little bit about the structure of the office. So we do financial audits, which are just standard financial audits of state agencies. We also do public corruption investigations. And then we have the PI program that we use to promote government efficiency. Those are kind of the three things that we do. I work a little bit more closely with people in the investigative division, so I'll be a little bit more involved in those reports because my background is as a public corruption prosecutor. So our investigative division is oftentimes we're looking into people who have stolen money from taxpayers. It could be a city clerk who's just writing themselves extra paychecks. It could be a state employee who is not following the law and using his position of trust and power to give himself an advantage on buying property from the state of Iowa. Different things like that. And because our audit reports, our special investigations, end up in a court of law in those cases, it's really important that before we finish them, we make sure they're going to work in a courtroom, if that makes sense. Because the training that you get as an accountant or an auditor isn't always going to cover whether or not a particular kind of analysis is going to work in a courtroom, if that makes sense. So I get a little bit more involved in that on that side. During the legislative session, I'm around the Capitol a little bit more, trying to help out and be available for legislators who have questions about different issues. Talk to groups like all of you. HR, human resources, employment issues. Those are usually less fun, but it's part of the job. And then every statewide elected official sits on the executive council. We meet every week. I sit on the state appeal board where we look at when the state has been sued, whether or not we should approve settlements of those cases. all kinds of stuff. You name it, if you can think of it, it's probably something that I do in the office. Anyone else, any other questions about anything that we do in the office? Yes?
How many accountants and auditors do you employ in your office?
Good question. Right now, I think we are close to 85. We have people come and go pretty regularly. I would love to, if I could flip a switch and add 10 more people that knew what they were doing, I would do that. We typically have more than 85. Around 100 is relatively normal. But again, this problem, the fact that we are short on staff, isn't just us. That's something that's true around the state and around the country for people in this business right now.
So someone that's coming out of like Iowa Central with a county associate's degree, what is their role in your department or your auditing?
So everyone who starts in our office straight out of school, and we do hire a lot of people straight out of school, starts as a staff auditor, and you are, doing the low work on the totem pole. A lot of the training that you get is on-the-job training. You're working on putting together your testing samples. You're working with your clients to make sure that you have the materials that you need to do the audit. Some of the clients are easier to work with in that regard. Others are less organized. It kind of depends on the size of the audit and the resources that they have available to them to get ready for an audit, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're working with the in charge and the manager on it, who are helping you understand everything that you're learning going forward. Do you guys have a government accounting class here? Not yet.
It's
So-
usually an upper level accounting course at the university, so
Yep.
not saying
We definitely preferred. Can't say it's mandatory, but definitely preferred. I know DMAC has one. I think Western Iowa Tech has one. A lot of Iowa's community colleges don't have one. But if you steal, I know DMAC's willing to share their syllabus. If you steal their syllabus and put a class together and you guys take that, that will help you with employment in our office. But the other thing is you're spending a lot of time in Microsoft Excel. That's kind of your home. And we've had people who graduate with a 4-year degree who come to us, and we had someone, I won't say where they graduated from or anything else, but I think they maybe lasted 2 weeks because they didn't know how to use Excel.
That was Iowa Western.
It was not Iowa Western, it was a 4-year degree. But we already have, I think we've got someone with a 2-year degree starting tomorrow, and we have one person already on staff with a 2-year degree too. So my point is, even if you don't have the government accounting class, if you have a lot of experience in Microsoft Excel and you're comfortable using that and comfortable using pivot tables, you're gonna come in and you might be better qualified than some folks that we hire from places with a 4-year degree.
How many of you have your Excel certification?
All right, excellent.
How many of you have used pivot tables in intro to data analytics?
Okay, thank you. I'd like to see a lot of hands there for that. It's a good office to work in. I'll say this. There's a lot of places you can go and get a job that gives you a paycheck. A whole other thing that you can get from some jobs is a sense of mission. And I really like doing this work because we fundamentally are in the accountability business. The idea in the Constitution that we can govern ourselves, it's really funny to think about this. But back in the day, when they were having that debate, there were a lot of people who were like, wait, you want to get rid of the king and the queen? How will we know what to do? How will we know what we should think or say? That's crazy. And there were a lot of people who were really concerned about that. They didn't want to have self-governance. Now it's kind of like, well, why wouldn't we? But at the time, it was a crazy idea, and part of what we do is really fundamental to that idea. Because the truth is, for governance, right, we have to elect somebody to some position, but we want to have a check and a balance on what it is they do, and want to have oversight on what they do. And we want to make sure that tax dollars, when they're paid in, are getting used responsibly and effectively and efficiently. And in our office, we get to do that day in, day out. We don't just work for our clients, we do, but we also get an appropriation from the state, and we have a larger mission, which is serving taxpayers across the state. And that's fun, I think, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make sure that people have an ability to trust what's going on with their money by promoting truth and promoting integrity and promoting accountability and transparency. So if those sound like things that you would like to work on day in, day out, then visit auditor.iowa.gov and send in an application. Oh, very importantly, we also have internships available that are paid. I think we're paying 15, 16 bucks an hour. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you're a first semester student, I don't know that we would take you, but reach out to our office and they could look at where you are in your coursework and let you know whether or not they'd be interested in having you as an intern. Any other questions, anyone? All right, well, let's see here.
You have time for a picture?
Yeah, absolutely.